Chapter 8. Waking up on Christmas morning, Zeke had every intention of making his way into Phoenix to do more volunteering. However, his body had other plans. Everywhere hurt. Muscles in his back that he didn't know existed were causing him pain. The stress had caught up to him. Just getting out of bed sent knives down his legs. He was not going to be able to do much of anything. So, instead of being productive, he stayed in his pajamas as he went about his morning routine, moving at half speed. Once the dogs had gone to the restroom and he'd had his morning smoke, Zeke grabbed a blanket off his bed, making his way back into the living room to lay on the sofa and watch Christmas movies all day long. After all, he thought morbidly to himself as the dogs jumped onto the sofa to join him, it isn't like there's only 130 days left or anything. Still, the familiar images and sounds of Home Alone filling his living room that morning wiped everything away from his mind. For just a short time, the crazy antics of a child defending his house from robbers transported Zeke away from the horrors of reality. He was taken to another time and place, a place of pure joy where he didn't have to worry about death. It was, instead, a time and place where a person could live through several accidents that would have killed an actual person. A burning iron to the face, the falls down the stairs, the torch to the head. It was a pure blast of nostalgia that rescued Zeke's soul for a short time. Once the credits rolled, Zeke flipped to the next movie on his queue, continuing on with his marathon. Though the newest of the movies on his Christmas Day watch list, Zeke found that Elf held its own when compared to other holiday greats. He had never really been a fan of Will Ferrell's over-the-top humor, but there was something about it that really hit with that movie. The ridiculousness of the humor made sense with his character. It wasn't just that the character was an idiot. It also helped that the movie had Zooey Deschanel in it. Zeke never seemed to dislike a movie she was in, even if the movie was objectively awful. By the time the end of the movie was rolling around, Zeke's face was covered in tears, the sun hanging high in the sky. He stood, giving his back a big stretch. His body still ached all over, but the movies were helping to release some of the tension brought about by the news he held secret. As Zeke moved to the bathroom, his phone on the arm of the sofa began to call out. Looking at the caller ID, he saw Dad. For a long moment, he just stood there, staring at the lit-up screen and the flashing letters. He picked up the phone with shaking fingers, unsure if he was just about to be wished a Merry Christmas or if he was about to have a much more serious conversation than he was prepared for. "Hey, Dad." Zeke did well at putting on a happy tone. "Merry Christmas."
"Merry Christmas, Zeke."
Zeke knew instantly. The moment his father opened his mouth, he could hear the resignation. Maverick had told them. He had given them Christmas morning, but he had finally told them. "You know?" he asked simply.
"We do. Maverick told us this afternoon after lunch."
"And how are you guys? Are you okay?" He could almost hear David thinking. He was obviously still trying to wrap his head around what it really meant, so there was still quite a bit of fog and confusion. Fog and confusion Zeke knew well.
"As good as can be. Mav said he told you already."
"Yeah, he told me at Thanksgiving. He wanted to give me some time to get prepared. Maybe go do some things." The guilt came crashing back over Zeke.
"And did you?"
"I did get some things. Got stocked up on food and water, you know. Didn't really go do anything, though. I did volunteer at a foodbank thing yesterday, but that's about it. It's okay, though. How's Mom holding up?"
"Oh, she's as good as can be expected. Remember, Z, we're old. We weren't expecting to live forever. Most of our lives are behind us, and I tell you what, they were good lives."
David's attempt to rally himself into some sort of resolute strength was obvious in his tone. "They were, but you guys should be able to go out the way you choose."
"No one ever really gets that vote, Zeke. Life is a crazy ride that ends however it wants, and no matter how my ride ends, I'm sure as shit glad I rode it. Our main thing is that you and your brother don't have any regrets. It's you two, the young people, that we feel sorry for. You're getting your future stolen from you.
It's okay, Dad. Yeah, we're not quite old yet, but Mav and I aren't really young anymore. I mean, I'm 37, he's 42. We've lived some pretty good lives. Sure, we won't be able to enjoy a senior citizen discount at Denny's like you and Mom, but we've still been able to do and see some pretty amazing things. I mean, I've seen places all over the world. I've loved and I've hated. I've gotten to experience everything I ever wanted.
What about kids?
His father asked bluntly. I mean, sure, I wanted kids, but I wanted them with the right person, not just to say that I have kids. So, honestly, I'm glad I didn't have them, because if I had, other than the rare girl I've dated, I never really found someone that was truly worth having them with.
Well, still, your mom and I want to make sure that you have everything you need while you need it. We can't withdraw your inheritance for another couple of days, it being Christmas and all. But in the meantime, we're giving you everything liquid we have. Stop,
David said as Zeke went to object.
Mav isn't going anywhere or doing anything. He's got his focus here at work. Your mom and me, well, we're going to stay here. We don't want to tie you down or be a burden on you. We don't want you to feel you have to stay near us because we're close to you. We'll be fine here. We'll be with Maverick. You're welcome to come, and we want you here, but we also want you to do what you feel you need to at this time.
Zeke tried to speak, but David continued.
It'll be in your account soon. I love you so much, son. Your mother loves you so much. We're very proud of you. Here's Mav. He wants to talk to you.
Hey, Zeke, Maverick said, the transition occurring so quickly that Zeke had still yet to get a word in.
How are things? Have you gotten everything you need?
Zeke gave it a moment before answering, making sure he was good to finally speak.
Hello? Zeke?
His brother said to the silence. Yeah, I'm here, Zeke said. I just wanted to make sure it was time for me to speak. They laughed.
Sorry. Mom and Dad keep saying they're fine, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, keep a close eye on them for the next couple of days. When you told me my brain almost broke, I can only imagine how they feel.
I am. Trust me, I'm keeping a close eye on them, especially right now. How are you holding up? Get your supplies and everything else you're going to need?
Almost. Just got to pick up a few more things this week.
Do it tomorrow. You know how I said the president and other leaders were going to tell everyone on the 1st? Well, not anymore. Some European journalists caught wind. They're having to move it up. They're each going to tell their people at the same time on Saturday evening for us. You have 2 days, Zeke. Do what you need to do before then. There's no time to waste. Things are closed today, but make sure by the end of tomorrow night that you're ready to go when you need to be.
Maverick's tone shook Zeke to the core. He hadn't even known Maverick was capable of sounding that way. I will.
Mom said they're transferring money to you. They're sending a lot, so if you don't trust your car, tomorrow is the perfect time to go and trade up.
The two fell silent, the white noise of the connection all there was.
What are you going to do, Zeke? Are you staying there in the desert?
No. I'm leaving with the dog Saturday night. I'll have everything packed up and ready to go. I'll watch the president say what he's going to say, and as soon as it's done, while everyone's brains break, me and the dogs are hitting the road. I'm going to trade in my car tomorrow, like you said. Figure I'll get something that's 4-wheel drive.
Get something diesel, too. Fewer people use it, and it won't go bad or anything until after. Well, until after.
I will. Thanks. Then, after that, depending on what Mom and Dad give me, I'm going to get a trailer. We'll just go from campground to campground. Figure we'll go east first to go back home, see Florida again.
I'm a bit jealous. I wish I could see Florida again. I hated it when we lived there, but now I dream of that little town. All the times we had there. It'd be a great spot to be at when Viator gets here.
Viator?
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's what we're calling the planet. Means wanderer. Seemed fitting for a planet wandering the vastness of space all alone. What are your plans for after Florida?
Don't know.
Depends on how much time we have left. I'd love to take the pups up to Yellowstone, maybe see Mount Rushmore."
Zeke laughed at the idea of spending his last moment at Mount Rushmore. Sure, it was a beautiful place full of history and controversy, but who would really want to spend their last moments there if they weren't from there? Only time will tell. "I'll definitely head north, though, come up and see you guys again."
"Don't."
Maverick's answer was immediate. Zeke stood up straight. "Don't? What do you mean, don't?"
"I mean Mom and Dad. One thing I can say for sure, they've been adamant that they want you to do and see things. They don't want you to come up here and feel like you're having to spend your last days being a caretaker. They don't want you to live what time we have left for them, Zeke. They want you to live it for you. That's why they're giving you the money. Not so that you can use it to come up to us, but so that you can use it to see the country while you can, so that you can do whatever your fucking heart desires. And me, I've got no time, Zeke. Like on a day-to-day basis, I work 18 hours, sleep 6, and do it all over again. I'm only even home 2 nights a week."
Zeke was unsure how to respond. Maverick was essentially telling him that he was too busy to see his brother during the end, and his parents were doing all they could to keep him away. He understood it, though, and he found himself appreciative of the gesture. "What's keeping you so busy, Mav? With Viator coming, what are you doing that's so important?"
"We're finishing off several crafts, see? We're calling them the Olympians. They're not going to carry any of us, no people. Yet they're going to carry all of us. We're designing them to carry our human story. There will be written stories, videos, artifacts, math books, star charts, everything you can imagine. We're even sending seeds and animal DNA and embryos. Over 2,000 species of animals, including humans, will have both embryos and DNA samples sent to the stars. Earth may cease to exist, but with these crafts, Z, the human species may one day rise again. That's why I'm at MIT. NASA sent me up here to partner with their engineers. My team is in charge of designing the housing for the embryos, DNA samples, and seeds, for radiation protection. We don't know how long the crafts will be out there for, so we have to make sure that whatever we make will be able to protect the specimens for millions of years, and it's important I'm here for that."
Astonishment turned to clarity. His brother was a key part of helping to save the little pieces of the human race that could be saved. Maverick and his team had quickly become some of the most important people on the planet, and Zeke marveled that no one would probably ever know. No one would know the sacrifices they must have all been making. Maverick was single, so dedicating so much time to the project didn't suffer many complications, but Zeke could only imagine the sacrifices Maverick's team members with families were making. As he thought about their sacrifices, Zeke thought to all of the nameless faces he'd pass on a daily basis. The people he'd pass in an airport, the people driving around him on a freeway, the people waiting at a bus stop. When he was younger, he would people watch, making up stories for those faces he'd never know. Then, Bob suddenly rushed into Zeke's mind, Zeke feeling that transition of the elderly man being just a nameless face when he walked into the church to when he left and felt like a friend. And an idea came flooding through the recollections. Stories. Every single person has a story. They should be told. "Mav, would you have room to take anything else?"
"What do you mean?"
"Like, if I were to bring you some recordings, would you be able to make those fit?"
"I mean, maybe. If they're small and not like a petabyte of information, we could probably make it work. Why?"
Again, the two fell silent, Zeke trying to form the idea into actual words. He pet Cagney's head absently as his mind clunked. "I'm not gonna lie, Mav. The idea that everything is going to end is really wearing on me. Like everything, not a single thing on this planet will survive."
"Well, maybe some bacteria,"
Maverick said, trying to be somewhat positive. "Yeah, sure, maybe bacteria will survive on a chunk as it gets flung out to like Mars, but really, nothing's going to survive. No Everest, no lions, no waterfalls, no clouds, nothing. Nothing that matters has a chance at surviving.
Bacteria matter.
Shut up! I'm trying to be serious here and you're over there joking like an ass.
Aren't things serious enough already? I think some levity from time to time is something the human spirit is going to need.
I agree, but not now, ass. Look, I was having a hard time wrapping my head around what to do during this time. Nothing seemed to really matter in the end. It's really bothering me, you know? Like, if nothing's going to be here, why do anything at all? And yeah, I'm excited about getting out there and seeing what I can, but there's still that thought in the back of my head that it doesn't really matter. But with you all looking to send those things out there to the cosmos, what if I could record a few people's stories? First-hand tellings, who they are, where they've been, what they've done. What if they could lay out their thoughts and fears about this coming time, really showcase what it means to live a life on Earth, not just some filtered and edited view like in the things you mentioned? If one of those crafts is eventually found a million light years away, not only would they have a slice of our culture, they'd have first-hand stories, and they would know what we went through. They would know what it meant to live as a human. Look, I'm sure you guys have done an awesome job at curating the best of the best stuff. I'm sure it's like Voyager. A bunch of information is put on a golden disc in hopes that it's universal enough that an alien species can read it. But tone, even with animals, is everything, Mav. They don't have to necessarily understand our words, but they'll understand through our tone. It'll be everyday people. People from all backgrounds, from all beliefs. They'll be able to tell the universe that they existed. And with it being recorded now and not being some old newsreel or internet video, Mav, it could be the best way to truly carry on the human species as we know it. What do you think? Zeke could hear his parents in the background as Maverick seemed to be thinking about the idea.
Okay, Zeke. They're set to launch on April 4th. If you can get the videos to Kennedy Space Center before then, we'll take the recordings.
Kennedy?
Yeah, or Canaveral. It's where the crafts are actually going to be loaded up and launched from. Most services should stay up through then, so we'll still be reaching out and keeping in contact with you. I'll let you know who to give the recordings to once I find out who's going to be in charge of the payload. I'm going to get going, though, Zeke. I want to spend a little more time with Mom and Dad. Love you, bro. Take care, and talk to you soon.
Maverick hung up, the sting of the words hitting Zeke. He, too, wanted to see his parents. He had thought he would see them again, but now he knew he had seen them for the last time. He would never hug his father again. He would never hold his mom again. The last moments he would ever spend with them in person were spent with him in a broken brain fog. It was too much, and Zeke fell to his knees, the concoction of emotions he'd been feeling over the last month finally bubbling over and exploding in a flood of tears. As he broke down, his dogs perked. Knowing Zeke was distressed, they each moved closer to him, nestling themselves tightly against him. They each nuzzled their heads under his hands, letting him know that he wasn't alone. He was so grateful for them, for the love they shared with him, which was so incredible and pure. He spent the next hour letting himself cry as he held on to them. Once he got it out of his system, though, he dried off his face. His Christmas movie marathon was over for the day. He wanted to watch one more that night to make sure the last Christmas movie he ever saw was the best one ever made, but he had other things he needed to tend to first, even if his body was still aching. It was time to pack. Instead of relaxing and enjoying the Christmas movies, Zeke dealt with the still sore body as he moved frantically about his house, the new date of April 4th ringing through his head. He was trying to make the final decisions of what he deemed important enough to take with him and what parts of his life were going to be left behind. He packed up a suitcase full of clothing for all occasions, loading up a second with nothing but jackets. He put together a number of bags of trinkets, everything from parts of a rock collection he'd neglected for years to a few stacks of photos he'd nearly forgotten about. He packed a bag full of dog toys and other dog supplies, making sure that he had the 2 pill bottles of Herman's arthritis medication. Once those were all packed up, he found himself standing in his living room, looking around at all the items that had been distinct parts of his life, yet that would soon find themselves never appreciated again. He had a small Christmas tree in the corner of the room, and as he stared at it, he felt his eyes watering again. He wiped them dry, refusing to allow himself to think about how everything was never going to happen again. By then, the sun was setting. He was as ready as he could be without having the trailer yet. It was time. He let the dogs out back and allowed himself an extra cigarette, enjoying everything about it. Unlike everything around that were all lasts, that was actually a first. That was the first cigarette Zeke had ever smoked without having some level of guilt. From his very first one, there was always a thought in the back of his mind of how bad it was and how it would kill him. But as he took a long, deep drag on that cancer creator, he knew that it wouldn't kill him. He could actually enjoy the cigarette without an ounce of worry. Once it was done, he was surprised at the tobacco high that hit him. He'd felt that way a few times when he was younger and when he had the first cigarette after quitting for a while, but that one was a doozy. His head was spinning and lightweight, a whiskey spin without the whiskey. Contradictorily, he liked it. Calling the dogs back inside, Zeke had done all he could until the following day, so he moved back to the sofa, curled under his blanket, and turned on his favorite Christmas movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, ready to laugh the night away, a hope holding strong that it would help him forget the fact he would never see his family again. And laugh he did. He laughed heartily at every joke he'd heard 1,000 times before, each one hitting almost like it was his first watch. From Shitter Was Full to The Exploding Cat to Clark's Meltdown, Zeke laughed until he cried. Credits rolling, the bittersweet essence of the moment washed over Zeke. Again, his mind just kept flashing. This is the last time that you'll... He shook his head, trying to throw the thought away. It clung to him, though, refusing to let his mind free. Realizing it would take a little time and a bit of distraction, Zeke moved into his office, Herman following closely behind him, expecting to be let out back. Instead, Zeke sat down at his computer, pulling up his music folder. Herman jumped up onto the chair next to him, spinning in a tight circle before curling into a ball. Get comfy, little man. We're going to be here for a bit. We're going to need some tunes for the road. Zeke created a new folder but stopped as he went to rename it, thinking for a moment before his eyes caught the now neglected dry erase boards. He nodded to himself and typed, "A playlist for the end of the world."